Yeah, we back. Now, in today's video, we're going to talk about the architectural genius of the black man. Now, for those of y'all who've been following me since day one, then you already know what I'm about to talk about today. But because the audience has gotten bigger, I think it's good that we might bring it back, resurrect the topic, bring it back to life, especially for those who might not have this information. I already know my catalog is huge. Some days I drop like 5, 6, 7, 8 videos per day. So sometimes videos might get lost. So we're going to bring it back. Did y'all know that black men built the largest military fortress on the planet in the history of humanity and nobody talks about it? Let's get into it, man. Let's talk about it. This information is significant because when this legendary structure was built, when it was created, it exemplified the genius of the black man when left to his own devices. This was something that black men built with no outside help, no outside influence, no outside financing, no outside funding. This was our genius, our manpower, and our labor and our finances put to good use. This is what the black man built, the largest military fortress in the history of humanity. Let's talk about it, man. Now, we're not going to dive too deep into the history lesson. I've already done that in my playlist section. If you want to go dive deep into the history of Haiti, go check that out. But we are going to talk about how the Citadel was built. Now, as you know, after the death of Dessalines in 1806, Haiti was divided into two opposing factions. One up north, composed of the former slaves and those who had a certain agenda towards freedom, and those down south, those who were a little bit more French identified. Now, those down south were not French identified. The generals who controlled the southern territory, they were French identified. But the population, it was the population of the former slaves in the majority. This separation between the two factions lasted about 14 years, from 1806 to 1820. Up north was called the Kingdom of Haiti. Down south was called the Republic of Haiti. The Kingdom of Haiti was known for its prosperity. It was known for its wealth. It was known for its productivity. It was known for its high level of commerce and trade. It was known for its well-maintained military. When in the south, the Southern Republic, that was controlled by the generals of the opposing faction, the French identified generals, the southern portion of Haiti was corrupt, it was impoverished, it was the complete opposite to the Northern Kingdom. And due to the fact that the Northern Kingdom, which was controlled by King Henri Christophe, General Henri Christophe, due to the tranquility and the high level of cash flow that was at their disposal, King Henri Christophe went about creating many different legendary structures. As we know, his legendary palace, which many people during that time compared it to the Palace of Versailles in France, another structure that was built, financed by the genius of black men. Now, unfortunately, the palace today, it currently lies in ruins due to a massive earthquake that hit the country in 1842. As we know, earthquakes are constantly smashing up against the country. No, that does not mean the country is cursed due to the constant amount of earthquakes that constantly smash the country. It's just due to the plate activity below the Earth's surface. Unfortunately, due to geographical location, Haiti will constantly get hit with earthquakes. It is what it is. But thankfully and luckily, the Citadel, the mountaintop fortress, way up 3,000 feet above sea level, has maintained its structure for over 200 years, and black men built that. That was the genius of the black man. That was the labor of the black man. That was the vision of the black man. Now let's discuss why the structure was built, and let's discuss how the structure was built. The Citadel is a 19th century fortress positioned up top, the Bonnet à l'Évêque mountaintop, 3,000 feet above sea level. As we know, the structure was commissioned by Haitian Revolutionary General King Henri Christophe, the most powerful black man of the last 500 years, to protect the newly independent nation against French invasion. Keep in mind, the Citadel was only one of over 20 different military fortresses that were positioned all across the country that began construction under the rulership of Dessalines. It continued under the rulership of Christophe, but it began under the rulership of Dessalines. But the Citadel is so famous because of its massive structure. It's positioned 3,000 feet above sea level on a damn mountain, to where we don't even know how they even got the big stones and the blocks all the way up the mountain, kind of like the Egyptian pyramids. We don't know how they got the blocks all the way up to the top. Even when you see the various geometric shapes of the Citadel, the only thing you can wonder is, how the hell did they build this? How the hell did they build this? Because they must have been hanging off the top of the Citadel, off the corner, way up in the damn sky. Like, bro, yo, I'm telling you, if we didn't have documentation, they would have said that the aliens built it. They would have said white men built it. They would have not gave black men their credit, just like the Egyptian pyramids. Another reason why the Citadel is so important is because this was the first example of black men displaying their architectural genius. Keep in mind, the generation that built the Citadel was the generation coming fresh out of slavery, the generation of independence. Many of these individuals did not have a formal education. They did not go to school for architecture or none of that. This was simply black men left to their own devices and left to their own creativity. Zero outside influence, zero outside help, zero outside finance. Self-made, self-paid, self-constructed, self-maintained. The palace in the Citadel was the first displays of black men displaying their genius on the world stage. In fact, during that time, the Europeans didn't even understand it. If you take a look up on the screen, you'll see it says, these are the earliest published images of the Citadel, Christophe's mountaintop fortress in northern Haiti from 1810. These were the earliest published images. Now, at the time, like I said, the Europeans didn't understand how it was happening because in their minds, these were a bunch of incoherent, illiterate slaves, right? In their mind, they had no intellectual capability. So for them to see all these structures being built when the French had left, they couldn't even understand it. A black king sitting up in his fortress. Keep in mind, the fortress was never used in military battle. Yes, it was built for military engagement. Yes, it was able to house and feed up to 5,000 soldiers as well as their families, but it was never used in battle because the French, the British, the Spanish, the Americans, not once did they ever invade Christophe's territory when he was in power. The European colonial powers did not touch Haiti, did not come near Haiti, did not disrespect Haiti until long after Christophe had died. When Christophe was alive, they did not dare try to disrespect. And because of that fact, the Citadel was used as a second residence to Christophe, right? He had the palace, that big major palace, and then he had the Citadel. And the Citadel would be a place where Christophe would just be chilling up at. That's where Christophe had his money at. They said when Christophe died, they found up to $10 billion in the Citadel with the B, the modern equivalent of $10 billion. Back then, it would have been $40 million. But when you adjust it for the currency of the time, it was up to $10 billion with a B, with the capital B. Christophe kept his stash of money in the Citadel. Christophe kept the coffee and the sugar and the wine and the tobacco and the cotton, etc., all up in the Citadel. So the Citadel functioned as a private residence, a warehouse, and also a prison. If you know that story that I told on my channel. In 1814, the French had sent a government agent. They sent a spy to Haiti, and that spy was captured. He was imprisoned and he was executed. But where was he imprisoned at? He was imprisoned in the Citadel. That's also where Christophe kept the prisoners. And during Christophe's time in power, there were over 4,000 Haitians that got locked up. Yes, during Christophe's time in power, there were over 4,000 Haitians incarcerated. So if you checked out my documentary that I did on Christophe entitled The Most Powerful Black Man of the Last 500 Years, as well as other videos documenting his life and his time in power, a big reason why Christophe's kingdom was prosperous and was tranquil and was enjoying a very peaceful existence was not only because of Christophe's high level of productivity in terms of commerce and trade, but also because of his high level of law and order that he maintained throughout the kingdom. Unlike down south, in the territory of the rival faction, of the opposing faction, of the other generals that controlled the southern territory, their territory was full of debauchery, was full of crime, was full of neglect, was full of poverty, whereas Christophe's territory in the north was prosperous, wealthy, and law and order was maintained. The criminals were punished and they were detained. And as you can see, we got all type of cannons and cannonballs. Damn near every window got a cannon facing out of it. So if the enemy was ever to invade at any given time, man, listen, we would have ran up in the Citadel. And like I said before, there were enough resources to house and feed up to 5,000 soldiers to defend the national territory for up to 1 year. That's how much food and resources and gunpowder and cannons and guns that we had in the Citadel. Now, of course, the Europeans were scared to approach Christophe's territory, like I mentioned in my last video entitled How Many British Soldiers Passed Away During the Haitian Revolution. I said during that time, the early 1800s, there was no technology gap in terms of military technology between black men and European men. The Europeans had cannons, we had cannons. The Europeans had warships, we had warships. The Europeans had rifles, we had rifles. The Europeans had horses, we had horses. It wasn't like today where the Europeans got all this crazy state-of-the-art technology and black men only got, dusty old technology from the 1960s. Like it was not the same. There was no technology gap between the Haitians and the European powers. That's why the European powers had to wait until Christophe passed away and his kingdom fell. And the only time they made a move was when the Southern Republic took over and was reigning supreme over the territory. Remember what I said? The Southern Republic was weak, it was incompetent, it was corrupt, the economy was dusty. So of course they were in a vulnerable position. So the Europeans took the time to go on the attack. And unfortunately, because the opposing faction that took over the country after Christophe's death, they seen Christophe as an enemy and they did not maintain anything that he built. They closed down all his schools, they closed down all of his construction projects. Everything that he built was cut short once the opposing faction took over the entire island. That's why you see after the 1842 earthquake, the palace still remains in ruins, in shambles. But even after multiple centuries and multiple earthquakes, the Citadel still standing strong. The Citadel still standing tall. Now let's continue discussing the architectural genius of the black man. Let's continue. During the concept phase, Christophe was a general in the Haitian army and commander-in-chief of the northern regions. I believe in 1805, when it was beginning construction, 1805, Christophe would have been about the age of 38 years old, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, man, black men in their early 30s was commissioning these massive construction projects, man. These massive buildings, these epic monumental creations that are similar to the damn Egyptian pyramids. Bro, the Citadel is the closest thing to the Egyptian pyramids that you gonna get, bro. I'm telling you, y'all gotta see it in person and understand how high up that damn hill is, how high up that damn mountain is. From the top of the Citadel, you could see damn near all the way to Cuba. And as we know, over about a 15-year period, the Citadel was built by over 20,000 black men. The Haitians outfitted the fortress with over 300 cannons of varying size. Many of these cannons were inherited after the French, after the French got up out of town and they left them cannons behind. Also, many of them were purchased from the British military. The enormous stockpiles of cannonballs still sit in pyramidal stacks still to this day. In the event of an invasion, Christophe planned to have his military burn the valuable food stocks along the coast, and then shortly afterwards retreat to the fortress, setting ambushes along the path. The Citadel covers over 100,000 square feet, and the walls of the Citadel rise over 130 feet. And keep in mind, the black men who built this structure, they never received a formal Western education. So even with all our fancy Western education, all our degrees, our master's degrees, PhDs, we ain't built nothing as magnificent. Even with all the college degrees that we have today, that our ancestors who built this off their natural knowledge of architecture. And when I sit back and I think about that, the only conclusion I can come to is black people as a whole, we've been going backwards. Anyways, let's continue. As you know, as I mentioned before, the Citadel included living quarters for Christophe and his family, but also it included bathing quarters, it included dungeons, it included bakery ovens. Also, during Christophe's time in power, a tragedy had struck the Citadel. One time when Christophe's younger brother-in-law, I believe his name was Prince Noel, he was in the gunpowder room. Unfortunately, lightning had struck the Citadel in the gunpowder room and it exploded and he passed away. I believe Prince Noel was his wife's baby brother. Yes, indeed, Prince Noel Quadavid. That event was like international news because Prince Noel was a high-ranking government official in Haiti. So yeah, he got, the lightning struck the gunpowder room. He passed away. That was like a crazy story, man. That was a crazy story. The structure of the Citadel is angular and it assumes different geometric forms. It was purposely built in this fashion to deviate any cannonball sent by the enemy. It was purposely built in this unique fashion to accommodate the Haitian style of warfare of attack, ambush, retreat, attack, ambush, retreat. As soon as you move to a different position on the Citadel, any attacking force would be hard to really pin down the enemy because the angles of the Citadel make it hard to launch an attack. And also the trail leading up to the Citadel is a very long trail going up a mountain. So imagine you a European colonial soldier running up this damn mountain, this massive mountain 3,000 feet above sea level. You got all your military uniform on. You in the Caribbean heat. It's hot. And keep in mind, Christophe set the ambushes. So you running up the woods up to the Citadel, and guess what? At every turn, every corner, you're gonna have a Haitian soldier popping out the woods, blasting you, knocking your head off. So by ordering all the food stocks along the coast to be burned, the enemy would have no resource to sustain themselves, no food to sustain themselves. And if by the grace of God you manage to avoid all the ambushes and the traps set on the way up to the Citadel, if you don't get blown away, by the time you reach up to the Citadel, you're gonna have 300, 400 cannons waiting on you to blow your chest off. And keep in mind, it was enough food and water inside the Citadel to last for up to 5,000 soldiers up to a year. So are you ready to fight for a year? Are you ready to fight for a year straight? Listen, it's a reason why them white boys didn't mess with Christophe when he was alive, man. It was a reason why. When Christophe was alive, them white boys didn't dare to disrespect. They wouldn't dare to disrespect. I already told y'all in previous videos, in 1814, the French sent a government agent by the name of Augustin Franco de Medina. He was captured by the Haitian military and he was executed after his long imprisonment. And guess what the French did in retaliation? Not a goddamn thing. In 1812, when Christophe had lost a large sum of money due to a bad investment with American bankers, how did he retrieve his funds? How did he get his money back? He seized cargo. He confiscated cargo from U.S. merchants valued at around $3 to $4 million. And then when the merchants tried to protest against Christophe, he said, listen, go to your government and get your money back. And guess what the United States government did to Christophe in retaliation? Not a goddamn thing. Not a goddamn thing. Christophe, the only black man that died on top, died rich, died powerful, died untouched. Europeans ain't touch him. Europeans didn't arrest him. Europeans ain't do shit to him. And that's why I give him the honorable title of the most powerful black man of the last 500 years. Because we know all our revolutionary leaders, they died a tragic death. They died broke. They died miserable. They died assassinated. Christophe died rich. Christophe died powerful. And Christophe left monuments that will make his legacy live on forever. You can write certain men out of the history books, but you cannot write out their contributions to humanity when they left physical, tangible structures and monuments and artifacts that we can feel, that we can touch, that we can see. And the reason why I place the emphasis on mentioning that this was built by black men, for black men, financed by black men, created by black men. It wasn't like nowadays where black men can't even build basic infrastructure without a bunch of money from the West and the Chinese and the Europeans and the Americans, right? We need a bunch of foreign investment to get the ball rolling. No, black men built this without the IMF, without the World Bank, without loans from the US, without loans from France, without loans from Great Britain. we built these structures without loans from China. Now, I'm not speaking against doing business in the present day with other powers because, like I said before, the technology gap is large between black men and other nations. So in order for us to once again rise to a position of power and prosperity, technology transfer and collaboration with the different world powers is an unfortunate necessity due to our situation. But back then, this was built, no IMF, no loans, no help from the West. In fact, when it was built, the West didn't even understand how it was built. They couldn't believe that the former slaves built it. And because Haiti got its independence so early, a lot of the first achievements of black men in the West, right? Black men in the Western Hemisphere was accomplished in Haiti. For example, like I said, the first example of black male architecture in Haiti. The first black-owned newspaper publication was started in Haiti. In fact, I dropped a series last week entitled, go to my playlist section, called Newspapers from the Haitian Revolution, where I dug up articles from over 200 years ago from the Haitian government. Go check those out. A lot of legendary stories in that playlist. The first black-owned theater, the first black-owned printing press, the first black-owned school, university. A lot of the first everything happened in Haiti due to the fact that Haiti was the first to get its independence after slavery. And the Europeans were blown away because it was the first time they seen it happening all independently. They couldn't believe the level of articulation in the newspaper. They couldn't believe the level of skill in the architecture. They couldn't believe the proficiency of the students that were graduated from the schools and the universities. And all of this is documented in previous videos that I dropped. Go to my playlist section. In summary, what I'm trying to say is, brothers, we have greatness locked inside of us. We are great. We are great. And all of this was accomplished because we were unified during this time in life. During this time period, black men were united, at least in the island of Haiti. Black men were united. And due to the fact that we were united, we were unstoppable. We didn't need no help from the outside to accomplish anything. And the reason why black men can't even build a tin shack nowadays without billions of dollars in finance from the West is because we are not united. We are not focused on one common goal, one common cause. You see, when you are united under one common agenda, then it's easy to understand how in a span of 15 years from 1805 to 1820, this massive structure was built by over 20,000 black men. Nowadays, can you get 20,000 black men on the same page for anything? You'll be lucky if you get 200 black men to agree on one goddamn thing. And unfortunately, not many of us understand our history, understand these stories. And when you don't understand your history and you don't understand your ancestral stories and your ancestral connections and the legendary exploits of your ancestors, then you'll never know the greatness that is locked inside of you. Our forefathers didn't have any iPhones. They didn't have any cell phones. They didn't have YouTube, right? Like YouTube, you can go on YouTube and learn how to build anything. You can go on YouTube and type how to do anything. The ancestors did not have YouTube talking about how to build a citadel, how to build a palace. They didn't have none of that information, man. They didn't have none of that. In essence, what I'm trying to say is the ancestors did way more with way less. And nowadays we have way more and we are accomplishing way less. And when I say way less, I'm talking about black men worldwide. I'm not just talking about Haitian men in specifically. I'm talking about black men as a global collective of men. And until black men are once again united, like the black men of the Haitian revolutionary time period, we will never rise back to a position of greatness. So anyways, man, it's your boy Neferkari Desalegn back in the building. Yes, indeed. Like, share, subscribe, Cash App in the description. And I'm gone. Peace.